Hello, everyone. Are we ready for a controversial topic for today? Are we ready for something just a little bit spicy? So, we're talking about Rodimus Prime today, a somewhat controversial character amongst G1 fans over certain things he did or did not do, depending on your perspective, and the way the character is portrayed, his legacy, etc., etc. Basically, the character has a lot of heat on him because, a lot of people blame him for Optimus Prime's death in the original movie. So, yeah, I'm kind of here to just put my 2 cents in, examine the character, examine why he turned out the way he did, and why maybe this is not really the approach to take on this character. So, first off, let's look at Hot Rod himself so we kind of get the beginnings of him a little bit. He's the brash young upstart, hot-headed, quick to shoot, but he has all of these signs of, potentially being great someday. That young upstart who is going to be leader. It's a hero's journey type story, and it's honestly a big trope in Japanese storytelling too, where the hot shot in this situation is going to be the one who is like, the great hero at the end of the story. It's a pretty common trope. It's a growing up tale. The goal of Hot Rod in the movie was to put him in this situation where his brash actions and immaturity cost him greatly, put a great burden on him, but he overcomes it, rises up, and becomes the hero who saves, the universe in this case. And that is the hero's journey. Like that's also Hasbro telling him, make a big deal out of this character because we really want his toys to sell a lot. So that's basically what happened. They tried to make him this grand hero, and starting him from a low point and ending him on a really huge point to show he's kind of overcome that. The writers of Season 3 did not have the same view or goal that the writers for the movie did, which makes things a lot more difficult when you look back at how the character ended up. So, the first thing we have to cover really here is, would Optimus Prime have died if Hot Rod had not interfered? So, the impression is that when Megatron is down, Optimus has him at gunpoint, and he spots this gun in the rubble, that Optimus would have survived it. Optimus would have seen it coming and not gotten shot or anything if Hot Rod had not interfered in the battle. The thing is, at this point, Megatron has Optimus off of his game. He's begging for mercy, which, draws a noticeable reaction out of Optimus Prime. Now, obviously, he's going to suspect something is up because Megatron never does this, but he also doesn't know that Megatron has a weapon just right there available to him. In this situation, honestly, between all the damage he's taken, how long this fight has gone on for, I don't think it would have resulted the way people think. The idea here is that, well, if Hot Rod wasn't in the way, then Megatron, then Optimus would have had a clear shot to just finish off Megatron. But that's assuming that Optimus would have taken that shot in the first place. Let's actually remember who Optimus Prime is for a second. This is a character who has had Megatron on the ropes many, many times over the course of the original cartoon. We have situations like Divide and Conquer, where he literally has Megatron pinned on the ground, disarmed, and weak from battle. He could have just ended it there with one shot to the back of his head. But that's not what happens. He makes Megatron yield for the day and lets him escape. Because this is not the Michael Bay Optimus Prime. This is the original. This is an Optimus who isn't afraid of leaving his enemy alive because he's confident that he's strong enough and resilient enough to come back and defeat him again, time and time again, until he gets the resolution he seeks, which is a peaceful one. If he does anything else, if he's just guns his problems down, he's no better than Megatron. So he's trying not to resort to that. And I don't think any situation will resort to that. The Battle of Autobot City, when all things are considered, really wasn't quite as dire as other situations they have been in. Divide and Conquer, for instance, the Autobots were in basically the exact same situation they are when Prime shows up in the 86 movie. That's kind of a big deal, right? Let's also acknowledge that, it wasn't just Optimus Prime single-handedly turning the tide. We'll remember Sunstreaker, the Dinobots, Hound. They were on board the shuttle too. We didn't see it, but they're there in the fight too. Like it's not just Prime here. So different, similar situation. I don't think the outcome would have been different as a result. I honestly think Optimus was not going to take this shot no matter what. So yes, Megatron, I think, would have gotten his shots off, and I think Optimus still would have died. It's why in my what if, Rodimus or Hot Rod shoots the gun out of Megatron's grasp instead of trying to tackle Megatron. Because that's the only way that this plays off, where Megatron does not get the kill. Again, we'll never know for sure. But judging from Optimus Prime's history with Megatron and how he's acted in the past, I think that's in character for him. And to think that he's just going to suddenly turn into, the killer who's not, is just fan fiction at that point, in my opinion. So, there's another problem with what people think of Hot Rod, and that is going to be, is the character whiny? Is the character just too whiny? Because a lot of his characterization comes from his self-doubt, because he's trying to live up to Optimus Prime, That's kind of a big shoe to fill. But I think a lot of that comes from the fact that Rodimus Prime's depiction in the cartoon is really minimalized. He does not show up nearly as much as Optimus Prime did, and when he does, it's very rare for him to be in a major prominent role. In this sense, in Season 3 of the cartoon, he's treated much more like a normal character rather than a leader, because all the episodes that focus on Rodimus Prime are dealing with the self-doubt and that whininess that the fandom criticizes him of. Now, we'll look into that a little bit here afterwards, but I'm going to point out something. Rodimus Prime was not the big deal toy on the shelves at the time. It wasn't the big, expensive figure, right? That was Ultra Magnus. Ultra Magnus was in that role on the toy shelf that Optimus Prime previously enjoyed, as being that large toy that kids could still afford without being some grand, gigantic figure like Omega Supreme or, in this year, Metroplex, that was more or less a Christmas item that kids would expect to get on a very special occasion. As a result, Ultra Magnus is spending more of Season 3 being in a leadership role as a field commander than Rodimus Prime is. Meaning, when we do get a focus on Rodimus Prime, it is for that whininess that people accuse him of. So, a lot of this, I feel like Rodimus just did not get a fair chance. Like, in the episodes where he's not focused but still appears, he is acting as a leader character would. He's acting in place of Optimus Prime. It's when everyone remembers the episodes that focus on him that really don't do him any favors. And that's what people remember more than anything else. And I feel like that's because they were trying to push Magnus as the big deal toy to get rather than Rodimus Prime. And as we know with things like Blitzwing and Octane, Hasbro at this time was not above just, forcing their hand as to what characters they portray and promote. But there is an argument that, he is a little bit whiny for who he is, as he's supposed to be the leader. Keep in mind, you just need to sit back and realize how big the shoes to fill are when it comes to Transformers. Optimus Prime is the hero who has been in command of the Autobots for 9 million years. That's a long time. And not only has he been in charge for 9 million years, it is 9 million years where the Autobots have still stayed in the fight against the Decepticons. And ever since the battle moved to Earth, it's actually been a winning battle against the Decepticons, unlike on Cybertron, where they're kind of on the back foot and the Decepticons are in control of the planet. Nevertheless, it's a 9 million year responsibility that he is suddenly thrust into. When you get a sudden promotion at work, and you're not ready for that managerial position that you've been watching someone fill for like 2 years, it's 9 million. This is 9 million years. It's a little bit different, especially because like I think like the farthest timeline back for the G1 cartoon goes back like 15 million years or something like that, to like when the Autobots and Decepticons were first formed. So there's 2 full wars and many Autobot leaders in that span that we saw in 5 Faces of Darkness, and then 6 million years of that, and then 9 million years where it's just Optimus Prime. He is the greatest leader the Autobots ever had, the greatest hero they ever had. You're supposed to fill in for him now. That's going to mess anybody up. I don't care who you are. And it really would have been a mistake. I feel like the same people who complained about Hot Rod whining about his responsibilities are the same people who would whine about Rodimus Prime not facing them if he was just like the cool, confident leader type. You know, I just feel like it would have been an unfair shake either way. Yeah, it's just too big of a role to fill. No one can fill it. And that was the point to Rodimus Prime's character, just to show how much of a burden it was, how much it was to take on, especially when you consider, you know, he is the first Autobot leader who's inheriting 2 planets to protect, not just the one. So, what else can we cover? What else can we talk about here? Oh yeah, here's the fact that he's literally based on Primus himself. Granted, this came after the fact, but it's the Chosen One mythos again, kind of coming back and coming full circle. Like, imagine the pressure. Now, this is something that the comic book Hot Rod would have dealt with, but, you know, this is how much of a chosen one you are. Like, this is what you have to face. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, like, I don't blame him for whining or caving to the pressure every now and then. It's the fact that as much as that pressure put on him, he also came back from it and took the mantle up and took responsibility. I feel like that shows more strength and character than simply just running away and staying away. That's also kind of a big thing people overlook, is the fact that he never stayed away. He always came back. Even when he got to go back to just being Hot Rod, where he was happy, he still chose to come back. That takes fortitude I don't think people give Rodimus enough credit for. Oh, and by the way, a lot of that, again, only happened because Hasbro wanted his toy to sell, so they had to put Hot Rod back in the show once in a while. Weirdness, okay? So, I think if you're looking at the original G1 cartoon, he's given just way too much of an unfair shake. I don't think people are giving him enough credit. That said, if you prefer the Japanese fiction to the American one, you have a little bit more of a credit to disliking Rodimus. Just a few episodes after he reclaimed the mantle from Optimus Prime and took over leadership of the Autobots again, Cybertron gets destroyed. Planet blows up. So this is another situation where we have no idea how it would have gone if Optimus was still in charge. You can't really say that the Decepticon scheme to blow the planet would not have happened if Optimus Prime was still in command. You just can't. But this was on his watch, so if you want to blame him for that, fine, blame him for that. But also credit the fact that, hey, he might not have been able to prevent it, and even if he could have, he's still taking the responsibility of finding a new planet for the Autobots and realizing that the time for his generation is over and that it's time to move on to like a newer generation of Autobots. And it does kind of fit with the Japanese history at that point, where they kept constantly changing. You know, they went from like they went from a span of like 15 million years where there was about 12 leaders of the Autobots to introducing a new leader every year. So it was a very different shift in how Transformers and the Autobots in general worked. And of course, it's because of how Japanese anime runs and not really and wanting to only have new characters and never keep the old ones around from previous seasons, etc. Difference in storytelling. But honestly, yeah, I feel like on the Japanese side of the fiction, he has an actual sin you can credit him with. Like unquestionably, Cybertron got destroyed on his watch. But whether or not he could have stopped that is still open for debate. So let's still not be like too hard on him here. I genuinely wonder how much of the backlash for Rodimus Prime came from the fact that he was just so forced down our throats. Because, yeah, like in the original movie, like, hey, Optimus is dead. Here's this new guy. Start loving this new guy. You better love this new guy. I honestly wonder how much of it just comes from the fact that, like, people still loved Optimus Prime and they would have hated anyone that was chosen for him. Even if they kept Ultra Magnus as the leader of the Autobots, even if that had actually panned out, I still think Ultra Magnus would have suffered some backlash because he's the, not just the fact that Hot Rod may or may not have been played a hand in Optimus's death, but also just because, he's not the character anyone wanted. They wanted Optimus Prime. So I feel like even if it was Magnus, I want to say that even like there's original storyboards where Magnus was still gonna be like retaining leadership. But even if that scenario had happened, I still think that backlash would have fallen. I think the backlash just would have been split. I think Ultra Magnus would be taking a share of it too. Any character who tried to replace Optimus was going to take that backlash. So no, I don't think it's just because it's Hot Rod. I don't think it's just because it's, how he was depicted in season 3 of the cartoon. I think it was genuinely just anyone was going, anyone who was going to get that hate. If for any wrestling fans out there, it's the Royal Rumble where everyone wanted Daniel Bryan at number 30, and it was Rey Mysterio, and Rey Mysterio got booed out of the building, even though he's the biggest baby face of them all. That scenario. I know that applies only to wrestling fans. I'm sorry for that, but it's the most apt reference I can come up with at the time. So if you know, I feel like it would have been the same scenario. If anything, I kind of feel bad for where Rodimus Prime sits now, for where Hot Rod sits now. He doesn't get for someone who was the leader of an entire season of the original cartoon and the star of the original movie, he gets relegated so badly. Not only does he get relegated to just leading smaller side teams or mini factions, but his role as a character has pretty much been circumvented by Bumblebee thanks to the live action movies. Now Bumblebee is that young, brash hero who has shades of leadership potential in him, and that's how a lot of modern fiction portrays him. That's Rodimus's role. That's Hot Rod's role. It's completely taken over. So what do you do with Hot Rod now? What do you do with Hot Rod now when the biggest money maker in all of Transformers has completely usurped your characterization? And Rodimus Prime, like, aside from a few what-if comic books or things like Regeneration 1, we just have never seen him take a role in fiction ever since. Tongue-in-cheekly in IDW 1.0, but not officially. He had the Matrix, but he never transformed or took full leadership. He had Autobots who followed him on Earth, calling him Rodimus Prime, but it's still not a title that he genuinely earned, And of course, like we've never seen the Hot Rod that turned into the Winnebago since. There's a brief flirtation of it in Energon where they present Rodimus as this leader of another faction of Autobots that didn't show up until later in the series. But even then, it just feels like he's just kind of put in charge of like a minor team. And I genuinely wonder, like, I know there are fans that backlash against the character, but it robs us of a chance to do the character right and to do him justice. I feel like Rodimus Prime needs a second go-around in fiction at some point just to see how it could have been done better, or at the very least to give the character a little bit more credit than what a lot are doing to him. But right now, with Bumblebee taking Hot Rod's role and Optimus Prime we know that you can never replace Optimus Prime ever again, it's going to be a hard road for Rodimus Prime. I feel bad because it feels like the way that the franchise is depicted now, there's just no spot to really put him back. And I feel like that's a disservice to someone who was not written well in season 3, and I really feel deserves a better go-around. So that is my take. I feel like people are way too hard on Rodimus Prime. I feel like he tells a much I feel like he tells a deeper story than Optimus Prime does because he has so much to overcome, and he does actually overcome it. He doesn't just start out as great, he has to earn greatness, which I feel tells a better story and has better potential. It's just a shame that, not too many see it that way. But hey, this is just me pleading a case. Maybe I changed some minds. Maybe I didn't. I probably didn't. But you're free to let me know in the comments below if you so choose. And yes, if you like what I do, yes, I'm on Patreon. That helps me out a lot. Or you can just hit like and subscribe. That helps me out for free. So, thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the channel. And as always, I will see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.